Welcome back to part 3 of our 3-part series on the importance of financial planning for dentists. We are going to wrap this series up with some discussion points on how debt can negatively affect a bank's decision to lend to a doc looking to buy their own practice, and whether or not owner financing is a good alternative in that circumstance. We are going to briefly touch on how some financial advisors aren't really who they say they are and actually can just be salespeople in disguise. Let's rejoin the conversation with Cheryl Burgmaier and get down to business. Please comment, like, and subscribe for more expert tips and interviews with interesting guests who understand the landscape of private practice dental ownership.
The bank is not going to lend to you if you have a ton of other debt.
That's a good point.
And it's student loan they get, but it's like credit card debt that can sabotage the opportunity to buy a practice. We've seen it happen, and it's so unfortunate because it's like, as a young dentist, you're like, I am so done working where I'm working and I'm so excited to buy this practice. And then the bank is like, well, we're not going to lend to you.
Nothing for you.
Because you are a
generous. If you have a generous, doctor that's going to do seller financing in that case, right?
Yeah. And a lot of times that's what ends up happening is you have some owner financing, but there's problems with that too.
Yeah, if you're ready to retire, then why would you want to take on the risk? If the bank wouldn't do the loan, but I'll do it, knowing that if it was required, I would have to go back and work in my own office.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I don't want to do that.
It's one of those things I think in financial services, everyone wants to talk about the exciting thing about what you're going to invest in, what's the stock market doing, how are you going to position the portfolio. There's a very much to, I think, Josh's point of the millionaire next door is like everyone's looking at what someone else did to say, oh, I saw this from I went to a conference and there's a presenter on X or Y. And
I saw it on TikTok.
well, that's the worst. We get that now. I'm sure on the tax side, you get that all the time now, all these write-offs. And it's wild to me that it's bank on yourself, all these crazy concepts that I see out there that are, people that are.
Be your own bank. I love that.
Oh yeah, they're not licensed. You gotta really do your homework. And the other thing I would encourage everyone to do is check people's background. I always say, there's a couple of questions you should ask every financial advisor.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
What's your credentials? Do you work with people like me? What's your experience there? How are you paid? Are you fiduciary? And what's our service model going to look like? Because I think those are really good questions, and anyone pushes back on those, you should keep looking. Or if you don't feel really great at that person, you should keep looking.
And understand what it is. Try to. I mean, obviously you can't understand everything that somebody is doing for you because there's the expertise that they've studied hard and they have experience in. Having conversations with some clients are like, I think I have this insurance policy. I'm like, well, what is it? And they're like, I don't know. And I get it. Insurance is complicated. There is a need for it. There's also some people that are very predatory in that industry. And so you have to be careful. And that's one of the things I like about Ironbridge too, is I've been in meetings. It's like, oh no, you don't need that. Somebody was talking to you about that. You don't need that. This is when you would need that. And you're not in that circumstance. So this does not make sense for you. So let's not go down that road. So no, understanding kind of those pieces of it. And if you don't understand, you should be comfortable asking questions.
There's bad certified financial planners, just like there's bad dentists, but you should know the difference between the dentist and the dental hygienist. And they're awesome, but if I'm going into the dental office, I know the difference. In our world, it's really tough for the layperson to know the difference. And that's an industry issue that we have. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lobbyists that want to keep that confusion because to Cheryl's point, there's a lot of life insurance or other type of salespeople out there masquerading as comprehensive financial advisors or allowing the layperson to stay confused, I guess, or stay ignorant to that.
Yeah.
And you should ask questions to at least know the difference.
Yeah. And to your point about understanding the service model, understanding fees is really important. I appreciate when people say, how do you get paid? How does this work? What does that look like? What does that mean for me? I try to be as transparent as possible because I understand how complicated it can be. I mean, try to explain, try to ask a business owner the costs they've incurred on their 401k plan. There's no way that there are some, they're really, really good and they're really diligent about knowing all that stuff. I will tell you, there's many that have absolutely no idea. They're like, I don't know how much I pay. I don't know who I pay. I don't know why I paid that person and that person. And then they're like, oh no, I don't pay for investments. I'm like, oh yes, you do.
Yeah.
So the easy layup, if anyone says, oh, there's no cost to it, there is a cost. It's just like, going on Google or all these freemium
No one's
models.
doing things for
There's no fee.
free.
Right,
Yeah.
you are the product then, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in that case, there is a fee, it's just not fully disclosed. And,
Yeah.
we work with some really great people and I think we do a great job, but this is not a non-for-profit, right? There is revenue and you need profit, just like a dentist needs profit or a CPA firm needs profit to keep the lights up and hire really great people and run a great business to deliver value. And if an advisor can explain their pricing model and their economic model, then they either they haven't thought through it very well or they're just typically salespeople.
Well, yeah, and if they can't explain their own revenue model, that is not the financial planner for you. You would think they would know their own, but
There's a lot of great financial advisors out there. So the nice thing is it's a wide universe and there's no monopoly on good ideas. What you need to really figure out if you're a dentist or any type of practitioner is you need good partners because your life is busy enough and complicated enough staying on top of your own profession. And if you don't have good partners that you can trust, it's going to get even more difficult as things get complex. Hiring decisions, retirement planning decisions, starting earlier is so much easier than trying to fix a problem that's already developed. If you don't feel comfortable with the people you have, you should keep looking or ask them questions. I think it's really difficult for any one person to do all things to all people. So a team of specialists that work collaboratively is so important.
yeah, it is hard. As a small business owner, I've owned Burgmaier Associates since, let's see, almost 23 years now. I've learned so much through the process and I'm still learning. Even as a business owner, there's still things that it's like, wow, I can't believe I'm 23 years in and this is just, I'm learning it. But I meet with new business owners all the time and I talk to them about it. I said, you're going to think about your business 24/7 for like the first 2.5 to 3 years. It's just how it is. And that's normal. And that's okay because every day you're going to experience something new and then you kind of get more comfortable and then it's a little bit easier. So having that conversation with a new dentist just last week, she's just overwhelmed. And I said, okay, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. She didn't like that answer, but it is, there's a lot to learn and you can't know it all. Like even as a dentist, I mean, in your office, you have to rely on your team in your office. And then and in dental school, I don't think they do a business class. I think that should be required education for every major, just so that they understand how a paycheck works and what that looks like. But
What's FICA tax?
yeah.
I got a
And
question.
oh yeah.
How can I make my clients do retirement planning? Like, how can I, because there are a lot of clients that I deal with, even prospective clients that are not saving for retirement. They just don't, when they talk to me about it, it's not like, oh my gosh, I should be doing this. It's, well, no, I'm not doing that right now. It kind of actually takes me aback a little bit, knowing that they may be either my age, which I'm similar to Cheryl in age, or older, and they're just not doing anything.
Yeah.
And they own a practice that's generating $1 million+ in revenues.
Well, and are there new strategies or some things that
Yeah.
they can do?
And if their plan is to retire on the sale of their business,
Right, that's what they're,
90% of the
Oh,
time they are going to be unpleasantly surprised with the
If
value
clients
I
are-
get.
Yeah, if clients are told, oh, don't worry, your practice is your retirement plan.
Right.
yeah.
I said, that is the worst retirement plan I've ever heard of.
That is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You are a
I mean, unless they're NVIDIA, the valuation for a dental practice isn't significant multiples. What,
Right.
No.
80% of collections now? What's the typical valuation range? Is that
Again, life happens, things happen. How many times have we heard, oh, I don't want to sell my practice for another 10 years. And then we get a call in 2 years and they're like, I have terminal cancer. I need to sell quick.
Yeah.
And my plan was to get as much out of this practice as possible. But for the past 7 months, I've been sick and my practice looks like,
Well, and they have a spouse that's going to be surviving them.
Right.
yes.
It doesn't
So
have
it's like-
anything now.
and I hate using fear. I don't want to fear monger. To
I
me,
do.
It's
I'm
not,
just kidding.
But it's just really having a good plan. And it's like, the practice is to me the gravy. But
Sure.
you have to plan. I like to do the 401k plan presentations because I love getting in front of the young staff members to explain why is it so important to start early.
Mhm.
And like the power of compounding. I get really excited. I don't know if any of you can tell, I have a lot of energy. I get really excited about talking about that stuff. And it's so funny because they're like, the dentists are like, oh, they're not going to want to participate. And I said, well, I'll explain it, whatever. And then all the young people are asking questions. Okay,
Right.
how much can I put in? What does that look like? What does that mean for me? How does that work? Oh, they're going to put money in for me? Okay. So once the employees start to learn, and then of course the practice owners probably hate me because it costs them a little bit of money, but it is good. It's being a good boss.
And it also helps to build because the turnover can be high in the industry and all of that, it can
Makes it a
help
little
with some
stickier.
of that.
Yeah.
It incentivizes people to stay if you're, providing that benefit too.
Yeah.
I would say, Kelly, we try to automate as much as possible. And so it takes, anytime you're dealing with willpower, it gets tough, right? So
Mhm.
the fewer decisions you have to make, the less willpower you have to use, the better off usually it is. Because willpower, studies have shown psychologically, right? There's a endurance limit to it. So if I'm making a decision each time about how much I'm going to save, just automate it. You can always slightly increase it, but automate it. There's a famous quote by Warren Buffett, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So I would ask that person then, at what age do they plan to die? And hopefully it's pretty soon after they retire because they don't have an option otherwise, right? If they care to live the lifestyle they want, or who are they going to move in with? Which of their kids are they going to move in with that's going to take care of them when they've run out of their money? And it's kind of a joke, but it's really serious. And then we just, candidly, we just we have a lot of really good visually powerful financial planning modeling. And this is not a matter of personal opinion. It's like, hey, these are reasonable expectations for the markets. Here's probably net what you're going to take home after the sale of a practice in a good situation. Here's different scenarios. Here's a potential lifestyle that you can afford to live off that. If 2,000, your lifestyle is 20,000, there's a massive gap there. So you have a couple of choices. You can work till you're 85. You can get another job when you retire. You can pass away really soon. You can reduce your lifestyle to 2,000, or which one do you want to do? Because it's your decision, Kelly. It's not ours, right? And if they choose to make their own decision, I would almost have them document that they chose not to make a decision, and the impact ultimately as a fiduciary, I had that conversation and they're choosing to purposely.
Well, I'm starting to include it in interview process when I interview a new prospective client, because I think that it's really important that they know that it's important for us to help them, make sure that they're taken care of when they do decide to retire. So usually what I'll do is I'll tell them, this is what we can do for you, that this is what we can do for you. And this will include, you're going to speak with Cheryl about a possible retirement plan.
You will speak to Cheryl. You're like, you will speak to Cheryl.
Yeah, I'm like, you're going to talk to Cheryl about this, because then she can explain to them, in the way that she does, how important it is, for them to do this and bully them into doing it.
I love what he said. It's like, okay, well, which child do you want to live with?
Yeah,
that's hysterical.
that is a perfect.
I need to use that.
Yes.
So I appreciate. Thank you so much, Sheen and Shannon, because I think this was great. I'd love to do it again because I think there's so much. I think one thing that that I would love for you guys to come back and talk about is some of them kind of like cool, interesting things that are kind of developing on the money management side, the investment side, the financial planning side related to retirement plans. Because you mentioned a cash balance plan. I bet you there's people listening to this. They have no idea what that is. And so I think that would be really, really cool to kind of follow up on that stuff too.
That'd be awesome. We love to.
No,
Yeah.
I
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
guys for having us.